In episode 4, you find out that Sister Alice had an epileptic seizure and she's going to need several weeks to recuperate. The doctor tells her that she's got to slow down on her workload because that's what caused the seizure. Her mom assures the elders that she's had these seizures before and she's come back stronger each time, but in her absence, she'll handle the sermons. And Elder Brown says, actually, no you won't. Because the elders aren't really happy with Sister Alice or her mom Bertie at the moment. The claim that Sister Alice is going to bring Charlie Dodson back from the dead has made the papers and made a lot of waves. And Elder Brown, along with the rest of the elders, want her to make a statement renouncing what she said. Because what she said is threatening the financial stability of the church. Herman Baggerly speaks up that he lost $100,000 in the chimney of George Gannon, and to make things worse, Sister Alice is going and speaking with and praying with the woman who helped conspire to kill Charlie Dodson. It's not a good look. Bertie tries to remind them that Sister Alice receiving messages from God is really the bedrock of the church, but Elder Brown takes exception to this. And even though Bertie puts up a fight, it's pretty much decided that Sister Alice will have to walk back the comments. And their sentiments are kind of felt throughout the church. Now, half the people love what she said and are supporting Sister Alice, but the other half are denouncing her as a heretic, to the point where when a family showed up to give her, quote, baked goods, the baked goods weren't brownies and cupcakes, it was a snake, as they cursed her. So there's a lot of people upset that she's claiming to raise the dead. So this is really an attempt for the church to save face and more so save their pockets. Now, even though Bertie doesn't agree with the decision, she goes to talk to Sister Alice and says half the people out there want to kiss your feet, but half the people want to kill you. And Elder Brown is one of those people as he's licking his chops right now. You had an episode. You misspoke. But Sister Alice says, I didn't misspeak. I heard what I heard. Did I mishear in Oklahoma? I mean, he speaks and we do. You said that. I mean, you think I want this? You think I want God in my head? I don't, but he's there. But Bertie says, okay, well, if he's there next time, tell him that what he's claiming that you're going to do cannot be done. And when Sister Alice is able to regain her strength, she goes out and addresses the crowd with a speech that was written for her by the elders, but she's not into it. I mean, you can barely hear her. It's clear she's kind of going through the motions. So she goes to address the crowd closer so they can hear her, and someone comes forward. Now, initially, she thinks that this guy's going to attack her, but instead, he gives her a blanket and says, this is for baby Charlie when you bring him back. And that's when Sister Alice throws the entire script out and announces that on Easter Sunday, baby Charlie will rise again and Emily Dodson is innocent. She's quickly whisked away by Bertie and some of the elders as Elder Brown, who is shocked by this revelation, just starts screaming blasphemy, and the crowd is going nuts. Now, Perry has gotten together with both Pete and the coroner and invited him over to Perry's house to, quote, hang out, have fun. But they weren't actually looking to hang out with the coroner. They had stolen George Gannon's body and have been keeping it in Mason's basement, and they want the coroner to do an autopsy. And when the coroner sees it, he is completely disgusted at what they did, saying that he can't just give him an autopsy in this makeshift basement. And this isn't what he signed up for at all. He thought that they wanted to hang out. But no, they just wanted to use him. So with him refusing to do so, they had to take matters into their own hands and dump the body at a golf course in the coroner's jurisdiction, making sure that when that body is picked up as a John Doe, it will be taken to the coroner's office and not somebody else. That way they can get a second autopsy report and prove that George Gannon didn't blow his brains out. He was murdered well before then. So Perry feels like this is a win-win, and he heads over to EB's office where the day before EB had met with the district attorney and the judge about moving Emily Dodson to a secure location because of what happened with Detective Holcomb and Detective Ennis. And while the judge agrees to do that, he doesn't lower the bail. He also learns in this meeting that Matthew Dodson is now working with the prosecution and is going to denounce his wife. And after that meeting, EB heads to the bank to try to get a loan to bail Emily out, but he's rejected. It's a really bad day for him and he's stressed out. So Perry's excitement over dumping the body isn't matched by EB. But Perry continues with the theory that they know that there was a fourth guy in this. They just don't know who it is yet. Unfortunately for them, though, Detective Drake is not going to testify. And EB, who has been half listening at this point, says, okay, one more time, lay it out for me. And Perry lays it out as simple as he can that George Gannon did not kill himself. There was a fourth man, yada, yada, yada. And EB takes that to the district attorney trying to get Emily's charges dropped. He tries to strong-arm the district attorney, saying that he could go to the press about this, but he feels like he should give him the courtesy of being able to drop the charges on his own. He does admit that while they don't know who the fourth guy is yet, they're going to find out pretty soon. The district attorney, who's playing it pretty cool, says, "Are you enjoying this?" And EB says, "Yeah, I am." And then the district attorney pulls out a bunch of envelopes and asks his connection with all of these people. And it's the one thing they all have in common were they were clients of EB Jonathan. And it turns out that EB was robbing Peter to pay Paul. And Peter in this situation was his clients, and Paul was his debt. EB makes the case that everybody did that because the economy went to shit, but that is something that could get you disbarred. So the district attorney says you have three options. You can take this to trial, you can plead out, or you can get disbarred. And he gives him until Friday to make the decision. But while the district attorney acts really tough in the meeting and plays it off like he's not worried, he is. And he finds Detective Holcomb and Ennis and demands to know why they haven't been able to get a confession out of Emily Dotson. They've had 3 days. And as both of them start making excuses, he demands to know who actually killed baby Charlie, because EB's saying that his guy is claiming that there's a fourth person involved. Now, both Ennis and Holcomb brush it off as Perry Mason. Come on, he's a loser. Nobody's going to hire him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Ennis tells him that there is no fourth man and the case that they have is tight, but the district attorney says, you better pray to God that Mason isn't playing this better than you guys are, and then leaves. And Mason has had quite a day after leaving EB's office. He calls his son to make sure he got the Christmas present that he bought for him, which unfortunately the kid didn't really want. When the Hollywood star that Mason was taking pictures of during his infidelity ends up seeing him on the street and roughing him up a little bit. That night, he hooks up with Lupe, who tells him that you're obsessed with this case. I can see it in you. And in fact, Mason is. In the middle of the night, he gets up and he goes and looks at the board that he has of all the evidence laid out, and he remembers something that Matthew Dodson said during the first initial interview with the police. So first thing in the morning, he heads over to EB's office where EB slept there that night. He had a huge fight with Della, who went home, vented to her girlfriend, and said, I'm not going in tomorrow. He's on his own. And it really all stemmed from the fact that E.B. Jonathan does not appreciate what he has in Della. And she got sick of it. To defend him a little bit, he's just very, very stressed out. So when Perry shows up in the morning, E.B.'s in rough shape. The phone is ringing off the hook, and it's people from the district attorney's office, but E.B. is telling Mason just to hang it up. Mason starts looking for the file from that initial interview with Matthew Dodson, but you can just tell that E.B. is kind of out of it, not really paying attention. Seems very depressed. Perry doesn't think much of it and grabs what he needs and goes. Hooks up with Pete and heads to the location of where they found baby Charlie. And he's able to locate where the kidnappers were held up. They were held up across the street where they could see the Dodsons on the phone. So Perry has been able to recreate pretty much what happened. Guys were on the phone. They saw the Dodsons. The Dodsons wanted proof of baby Charlie. So somebody went on the trolley and placed the baby there. Dodsons head downstairs to get baby Charlie. The guy from the trolley ends up hopping in the car, racing up the street, clipping the trolley. And then there was a fourth guy who had to grab the money because they weren't willing to go across the street and risk getting caught by the cops. It's too far, and at that point the cops had already shown up. The question is, though, where did they go? Well, they weren't going to go out the front door past all the commotion, so they must have gone out the back. But when Perry and Pete go out the back, thanks to one of the janitors, there's really nowhere to go. Although they look up and they see a walkway, and the janitor tells them that the walkway goes to the Elks Lodge. And I guess if you really wanted to, you could escape that way. So they head up there and act like they're going to become members, where there just so happens to be an assembly going on for some crippled children who are looking to go to summer camp. And in the audience is Ennis, because Ennis's daughter is one of those little girls that's on stage. And Perry approaches him, basically telling him that he knows he's involved somehow, but Ennis plays it off like, buddy, this is my normal hangout. I'm here about 3 days a week. You're grasping at straws here. You have nothing. Although Mason doesn't think so. Now, while Perry was figuring this all out, E.B. went to go visit Emily and apologizes and says that he's not going to be able to bail her out. She lied to the police, they put a big money on her bail, and while he wants to get her out, he's just not able to. And he thinks the best idea for her right now is to plea out. The max time she would do is 20 years, and there's a nice women's facility up in Chino. But she can't believe that he's advising her to admit that she's guilty to something that she did not do. She's able to get E.B. to come around on that, saying that she's going to fight, and E.B. agrees, yeah, you should fight. But when he heads home, he has no plans on fighting. He's given up. The chickens have finally come home to roost. He's broke, about to be disbarred, is working pro bono, and decides, you know what? It's not worth it. He closes all the windows in his house, puts on the gas stove, opens it up in an attempt to commit suicide. Thank you for watching this recap. If you do not see the next one up in the corner right there on the end screen, don't worry, it'll be up shortly. Please consider following the channel. That'd be cool. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you don't, there's a thumbs down button for a reason.